saw something called the Gen Z stare, and apparently we ain't got no mannerisms, we rude, and we don't know how to talk to people.
That blank, emotionless, detached look isn't just a quirky thing that young people are doing. It's a symptom of a generation raised on failed socialization.
The Gen Z stare is something that millennials made up to make up for the millennial pause. Like, literally, people have been doing this customer service stare for years. Like, y'all just wanted to make something up just to throw Gen Z on the bus again.
My theory of what the Gen Z stare is, it is the lack of social skills and the lack of being able to deal with human beings. They do not know how to have proper interaction, proper conversation, proper responses to a human in real life.
The Gen Z stare is just us existing, or at least attempting to. We're overstimulated, we're underwhelmed, we're always trying to silence the screaming that's happening in our heads because, oh my gosh, what in the world is even going on at this point? We're tired, as I don't know what, we are exhausted. And sometimes you just gotta sit there with your arms and legs crossed, hands together, and just...
Hey everyone, it's Bree. Welcome to my channel, and today we are going to be talking about another Gen Z versus millennial debate that has hit the internet. But before we hop into today's video, I actually wanted to introduce my sponsor, Ana Luisa. Ana Luisa is a sustainable jewelry brand that offers high quality pieces at affordable prices. And they recently just came out with their new By the Sea collection, which is perfect for the summertime, perfect for vacation, but they're also really nice pieces just to wear every day. And I wanted to show you guys some of the pieces that I received from their latest collection. So first you have these like seashell type of earrings, super duper cute. I'm about to put these on right now. And then you also have this super cute seashell necklace, again perfect for the summertime. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on as well. These pieces are super cute and they're also water resistant, so they're great to wear at the beach or even to the pool. So if you're looking for long lasting pieces that are perfect for the summertime, make sure you guys check out the link in my bio to check out Ana Luisa's By the Sea collection before they sell out, because I promise you don't want to miss it. Okay, getting back into this debate that's been going on. A lot of the times when these debates come up online, I just have to roll my eyes because I feel like a lot of these debates come from generations wanting to bash each other. And I just feel like it's starting to get old at this point. Like, this whole Gen Z stare thing is so like It's so ridiculous to me when people come up with these phrases around Gen Z, because I'm just like, literally everybody does that. Like, the stuff that people are saying that only Gen Z does, I'm like, either previous generations have done that at some point in their lives when they were our age, or it's a universal thing, but they try to make it a Gen Z thing, right? And so, I've been seeing all these TikToks floating around about the Gen Z stare, and I'm like, okay, what is the Gen Z stare? It seems like people can't even get on the same page about what the stare even means, because you have some people who are saying that the stare is, Gen Z trying not to like snap or spaz out. You have other people saying that the Gen Z stare is like if they're just in like conversation with somebody, or if they're at a job, particularly in like customer service work, and like they just aren't speaking when they're supposed to be speaking, or they aren't responding and they're just staring awkwardly and like not saying anything at all. So the internet isn't even fully on the same page about what the Gen Z stare is, right? But from what I have gathered, right, from both millennials and Gen Z on this topic has been very, very interesting. So I do want to address both of those perspectives, right? Because from the perspective of millennials, right, who are saying that this Gen Z stare is reflective of Gen Z not knowing how to talk, not knowing how to communicate, and not picking up on social cues. Here's the thing. Do I agree that there are some people that are Gen Z that struggle with socializing? Yes, I'm one of them. I am extremely socially awkward, and that might not be something that you can tell from, me doing these YouTube videos, but that's because I'm speaking just directly to a camera and it's just me in here. When I'm talking to other people, now don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting there like not saying anything at all. I'm not that bad, but sometimes I do struggle with, like what to say and things like that, or just coming up with things to say. Like small talk, I cannot stand because for me, it's easier for me to talk to somebody if, you know, there's a mutual thing we have in common, or if there's something happening around us that I can speak to. It's easier when I have kind of like something to go off of versus just walking up to a random stranger and sparking conversation. I quite literally do not have that skill set. But I also don't think that's just a Gen Z thing. I think that is just a person that is extremely introverted and shy and has social anxiety, like me. And I know that's not just a Gen Z thing. I know people love to say that it's only Gen Z that struggles with social anxiety, but that's just not the case. There are people in their 30s, 40s, 50s that struggle with social anxiety. It's not just Gen Z. I think our generation, you know, became more open to talking about it and, you know, identifying with that, but I don't think it's just to our generation. Now, with that being said, I will say that, you know, in the times that I've been out and about and, you know, like I've been shopping or, you know, whatever the case may be, and I'm interacting with someone my age, you know, there have been times where I am interacting with somebody and the interaction is a little bit off, right? And they aren't really responding in a way that is, I don't know, people have been saying like the way that Gen Z acts in regards to, it's been primarily customer service roles. So people that are like cashiers, that's where I've mostly been seeing this conversation, right? Is that you have Gen Z people that are cashiers that are checking people out and they like don't know how to engage in casual conversation or even just certain social cues that happen, you know, in those interactions, like they're just not doing, right?
There's nothing new under the sun. There's stupid shit that millennials did, and we're just calling out stupid shit that Gen Z is doing. Yo, the Gen Z stare, we're not talking about when somebody says something stupid to you and you're like, we're talking about we're standing in line and we're the next person in line. You don't wave us over. You don't say next. You just try to make some weird fucking eye contact so that we telepathically know that you're ready for us. Me and my wife walk up trying to get seated at a sit-down restaurant and the hostess just stares instead of saying, a seat for two or whatever. Nah, we just having a stare off. You're waiting for me to tell you, hey, I need something for just me and my wife. Let's get it going. Gen Z genuinely lacks basic communication skills. I've even had it to the point where you walk up to someone younger, like in Gen Z, say, how you doing today? They like, are you okay?
And for me, it doesn't really bother me all that much, just depending on the situation. But there have been times like when I'm interacting with somebody and I'm like, I don't know how to navigate the conversation because they aren't really talking or interacting with me. But again, I don't put that on Gen Z, especially because I just recently went through this with two people, actually. One was a millennial and the other one was Gen Z. So I've had it from both generations of people just not knowing how to, I guess, communicate and interact. And, you know, people talk about all the time how COVID and like ever since 2020, like people's communication skills have been off. And that I will agree with, right? Like, again, for the most part in my day-to-day, like when I'm out and about, people aren't just being, you know, awkward or rude, right? But you do have those few interactions with people where that is the case. But I honestly can't say that it's mostly been Gen Z or people that are my age or younger. I've had that issue with people that are older than me, which is crazy to say, right? Because I'll have the thought of like, okay, like I thought like when you like certain things that like I was taught in regards to how to interact with people, I'm noticing a lot of people starting to lose that. Whether it's, you know, when you walk into a room, like you speak, you know, if you are at the cash register checking someone's order out, you know, you say, you know, hey, like, how you doing? Like, you know, did you find everything okay? Like, there's just certain communication rules and guidelines that you just kind of learn that I feel like is being lost. But again, I don't think it's specific to Gen Z because I've seen older people do it. And it might just be one of those things, right, where some people experience it more than others, because there were quite a few, I'm assuming like millennials or baby boomers who have spoken about their experiences similar to the whole Gen Z in the workplace thing, right? I made a whole video about Gen Z in the workplace because people kept saying that we were lazy. And I'm like, for one, I know I'm not a lazy worker, but also a lot of my friends who are Gen Z and who are younger than me, they also aren't like lazy workers. Like they have great work ethic. So I think a lot of this does boil down to your own personal experience. So that's why for me, I'm like, this is a crazy conversation that popped up out of nowhere because this is not something that I have really experienced. Like when you're just, talking to somebody and they're just not responding. Like I saw on Twitter, people were talking about phone calls, like for job interviews and things like that. And there was this one lady who was like, what is it about Gen Z, like not knowing how to answer the phone? Like, when you're calling somebody, like it's a rule that the person that's calling is the person that says hello, which I didn't quite understand that because I always thought that if I'm calling you, right? Like if you, the viewer, if I'm calling you on the phone, right? I'm sitting there waiting for it to go through. I always thought the person that picked up the phone says hello because otherwise, how does it, like, to me it's weird to like answer the phone and not say anything and wait for the other person to say something first. But that's what this lady on Twitter was saying, that apparently is a weird thing and it's a Gen Z thing. And I'm like, I thought that was common, that if you're calling someone, you're waiting for them to pick up the phone and say hello. Why would you, the person that's calling them, say hello first? That's just weird to me. So again, I think people are just bored and they're just looking for something to be annoyed with, because again, this is not something that I see. And like, I'm even like waiting because I'm like, okay, surely someone has like maybe filmed an interaction or something like that, even though I'm not a fan of people just putting cameras in folks' faces, but we just live in that time now where that's happening. So I'm like, surely there's some like footage or something on the internet of people talking about this Gen Z stare. And again, I haven't really seen much. I've seen people like reenact what the Gen Z stare looks like, but I haven't like seen it in real life.
Hi ma'am, did you find everything you were looking for today? Excuse me, can you help me find this dress in my size? I looked over there, but you guys don't have it over there. Yes ma'am, so usually whatever is over there is all we have in stock because we are a smaller store, so if it's not in your size, we probably don't have it in store, unfortunately, so I'm sorry about that. Yeah, like I said before, my size isn't over there, so can you just look it up in your system to see if you have it in my size, because my size isn't over there. Like I was saying.
Sure, anything else I can get for you? No, not really, but I was looking at the app the other day and they said they had a special for $5 instead of $7. Unfortunately, our deals are only on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so yeah, we can't do that. Really? Because they showed me on the app that this week it was going to have a special deal for $5 instead of $7. No, unfortunately, starting next week, which is this week, is when the deal starts, and it's a Monday, ma'am. I'm gonna see if that's correct, because I checked last night, and they said that they had that deal for this week. Like, I know I'm not looking at things incorrectly. Okay, sure, yeah. Take your time.
Hi, do you want a bag? Do you want to get kava later? Yes! And then you can just press the green button. Yeah, that sounds really good.
The green button, sorry.
Wait, red? Bye guys, have a good one. Are you sure you want kava or like AAA? Both work. Should we mobile order? Wait, yeah. Okay, wait, let's go. Okay.
By the way, this is the Gen Z stare.
Hi, how are you today? Okay. What'd you want to do today?
But again, I think this whole Gen Z stare conversation was just an excuse for older generations to complain about the way that Gen Z talks and interacts and their lack of communication skills, which I'm not saying is completely invalid either. Like, it's not to say that there aren't a group of Gen Z people that don't know how to interact. A lot of us do struggle with, communicating and things like that, but the extreme of like, oh, I walk up to a Gen Z person and say hello and they're just staring at me, I just don't think that that's happening as frequently as people are making it seem. Now, on the flip side, I've seen Gen Z saying that, hey, this stare is us either trying to process in real time how to respond, or us trying to not react or respond in a way that's not great. And that is something that I can relate to. I don't really do this. Like, because for me, like, just staring in general just seems very weird and rude. Now, I have noticed that people are, again, maybe this is just something that I've experienced more as an adult, or something that I've noticed more as an adult. But I have noticed that people do tend to like stare a lot more than what I'm used to. Like when I'm just like, again, out and about, like minding my own business, I do notice that there are more people that kind of just stand there and are just like staring at people and not saying anything. And I've always found that to be very weird. It actually angers me when people are just sitting there staring at you and not saying nothing, because it's like, do you not see that I can see that you're like staring me down and not saying nothing? Like I was always taught that that's very rude, to just stare and not say anything. So that's why I'm like, okay, maybe there is like a disconnect. And I've also seen people say that, you know, maybe the way that older Gen Z does stuff is different from how younger Gen Z does stuff, which I do think that is the case for a lot of different situations. But I can relate though to of taking a moment to pause in conversation so I don't say anything that I should not say, because I've just been in a lot of situations where folks have tried me, folks have said stuff that have, you know, rubbed me the wrong way, people have come at me crazy, but I've also had people say stuff that just did not make any sense. But you don't want to like say that because you might offend somebody. And you know, that's happened before as well, where like I've accidentally offended somebody. So sometimes I'll try to take a minute just so I don't say anything that might get taken the wrong way. But there's been times, again, where I'm speaking to somebody and they'll say something and I'm like, huh? But I can't do that in front of the person, right? So I'm kind of just like sitting there like, okay, like how do I respond to this in a way that doesn't come across like I'm agitated, or doesn't come across like I'm annoyed or thoroughly confused, right? Especially when it comes to interacting with the older generation. And I've seen other people speak on that as well, like about how them staring at somebody is them trying to like process what was said, right? And I think you do see a lot of that happening, right? Where you see people kind of like delayed in responding. And I think it is because of that. It's because we're trying to process in real time how to respond to something.
The older generation will swear to God, the younger generation are so rude and we cannot communicate when, honestly, we don't be saying half of the shit that we wish we could say, especially in the workplace. And I feel like this is where y'all start poking the bear, because I feel like deep down inside, y'all know we can't say nothing if we ain't got nothing nice to say. Because, you know, the minute we do, we're gonna get fired, or you gonna end up filing a complaint, or something's gonna happen.
We have the Gen Z stare because most of y'all are just clueless. Can I have a cheeseburger with no cheese? Some customers make you question, how are these real people? It says remove my card. Do I remove my card? Most of the time, it's us trying to figure out if you're being for real or not.
Oh, Gen Z just does the Gen Z stare. They don't know how to talk to people. Fair. A lot of Gen Z don't know how to talk to people. But a lot of older generations talk too much, too rudely, and too proudly while being too stupid. Then she says, I want to have pepper jack on this burger. I said, ma'am, are you aware pepper jack is the type of cheese we offer? She looks at me and she scoffs. And I was like, okay, ma'am, we don't offer anything that's pepper jack except for our cheese. She said, put pepper jack on the burger. Y'all have done it before. I want the pepper jack that's not the cheese. So her order comes out. I give it to her. She opens the burger. She says, what is cheese doing on my burger? I said, ma'am, you said to put pepper jack on your burger. But she asked me, are you dumb? Let me go get my manager. She has this whole conversation with the manager, all upset, calling me all types of names. The manager pulls me to the side and said, oh, she was asking for fried jalapenos on her burger. I'm sorry. Is there a world that I'm not from where pepper jack is fried jalapenos? I've had a person get mad at me because their iced tea was too cold. I really don't know what these people want from me. Of course, I'm going to just start staring at you. I'm staring at you like you dumb. You're stupid because you are.
Now, I won't sit and stare. I've gotten better at just communicating to people when that happens. So if someone asks me a question that catches me off guard and I don't have an immediate response, I literally will tell them now. I'm like, hey, I don't have an answer for you right now. I'm still thinking through it in real time. And sometimes I'll even talk them through me, getting to an answer. But I can see a world where someone that may not know how to communicate that, they're just sitting there in their brain, just trying to process and trying to think. And it looks like they are just staring and not saying anything, but really they're up here trying to come up with something to say. And I think that might be what's happening with this. But from what I've been hearing from a lot of people, right, is that the people that have this Gen Z stare, they're coming across as being rude, like intentionally, right? Like they're not being very kind. They're being very short with people. And, you know, that's never okay. But again, I don't think that's a generational thing. I have witnessed it firsthand from people that are older than me, people who are in their 30s and 40s. Like I've literally witnessed it in real time from people that are older. So again, I think this is a conversation that has some value in it. I just don't believe that this is a generational focused debate.
So why the fuck y'all sitting here calling it the Gen Z stare when all of y'all niggas who's giving us examples is fucking retail, my nigga? It's fucking Starbucks, my nigga. Call it the Starbucks stare. Why y'all be on our dicks?
But what I think is happening is that y'all are just seeing employees having a bad day. Maybe a little tired, or they may not have the best energy or whatever. But it's also the fact that that's not only a Gen Z thing. Like, yeah, we got Gen Z behind the counter. We also got millennials behind the counter. We also got boomers and Gen X behind the counter. We got people who are supposed to fucking retire behind the counter, and they got that same fucking attitude, but they only got that attitude because they're still in the same place as us.
And a lot of you are saying, oh, I'm asking how your day is, and you're just staring at me. Yo, that's just called a rude person. But from ages literally 5 to 88, I have been working before and asked people how their day was and gotten zero response, or someone literally has cussed me out for asking how their day was going. Like, y'all want this to be a Gen Z thing so bad.
Like, I really do think that it just may be an overall product of the times that we're living in and how people nowadays, just in general, struggle to communicate with each other. And a lot of those, you know, social skills just are lacking across the board. But yeah, for me, the Gen Z stare, if I even have one, is usually me just trying to think through how to respond in a way that is not combative. Because I mean, I think we're all guilty, right, of saying things, you know, people take offense, or, you know, maybe tone is a thing, right? And again, just, I think this is also an overall sentiment that people have had recently, where it just feels like people are just getting real, like, a little slow. I'm not gonna lie. Like especially like some of the stuff that I see online about certain things, just the way that people think nowadays. I'm like, y'all just this is lacking intelligence. And I have to figure out a way to respond that doesn't come across, you know, again, defensive or offensive. For me, that's what the Gen Z stare is I'm trying to take a breath, a moment, a pause. But I do remember there's been times in the past, whether it be, again, just having conversations with older people, whether it's in school or at work or even at home sometimes, where I'll get asked a question and I'll either be extremely confused at the question, or the question literally makes zero sense, that I'm like, why in the world would you ask me something like this? And I'm trying to take literally just a minute, like not even a full minute, like I'm talking about like maybe like 10 seconds, if that, to like really think through how I'm gonna respond. And it's a weird response that I get from, I'm sorry, but baby boomers, where if you don't respond immediately, they get very angry.
Now, I have my little theories, so listen. You didn't realize that Gen Z is a generation that grew up on technology, so a lot of their communication was texting and like stuff like that. So they can take their time answering the question. They don't have to be quick to answer a question, because it's not like how we growing up, like when it was like a phone call and you have to answer it. Think.
I don't know if y'all are glitching in real time, but it was giving AI. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. Some millennials are saying that this is because y'all have had access to technology a lot earlier, and y'all can chronically scroll online to the point where actual human interaction takes y'all longer to compute because you don't have a second to think about your responses and your texts and all that. I don't know, but I seen it.
I've had that experience multiple times, where if they ask me a question, I don't have like an immediate response, they'll start getting like agitated, and they'll be like, did you hear me? Did you hear what I said? Are you gonna answer me? And it's like, dude, I'm thinking. I'm literally thinking, like, relax. Like, I'll never forget, I had that experience with the past manager from an internship that I had years ago, where if I didn't answer her immediately, she would get very, very angry. So I don't know, maybe that's what some of them are referring to, where it's like, if they are talking to you or asking you a question and you don't give an immediate response, and you're kind of just like looking off into the distance trying to think of an answer, they're like, oh, why is this person not answering? You know, are they just ignoring me? And it's like, no, I'm just trying to process my answer. Again, especially because here's the thing, right? If you ask me something that I feel like is a ridiculous question to ask, and I say that, then we're gonna have a whole issue, right? So I'd rather take a moment, take a beat to just think through my answer, because again, sometimes you do get asked really dumb questions and you're trying to think through how to calmly respond and not get triggered, because it happens. So yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of moments where I'm taking a moment to respond, and in that moment of me responding, I may or may not be staring off into the distance. So that's why I've made it a point to, you know, especially interacting with people who do kind of like rush you for an answer or rush you for a response, I'll just immediately be like, hey, let me think through this, or let me think about it, or let me figure out, you know, how I feel about this, or whatever questions being posed to me. I try to let them know, like, hey, I don't have an answer for you right this second. Give me a moment to think through. So yeah, I don't know. I think this whole entire conversation is just a result of miscommunication. Honestly, it's miscommunication, it's lack of communication, it's just communication. Communication is always at the center of a lot of the issues that we have, especially in society. I think that's why, you know, everyone's been so combative online, and why we keep having all these debates and, you know, trying to come at each other, because it's literally just a communication issue. And I think that if we all just led with a little bit more grace, a little bit more patience, then maybe, you know, a lot of these conversations and interactions, especially among generations, wouldn't be so tense. Because it really does feel like every other week there's something being said about, you know, Gen Z being incompetent. And it's like, how many times are we gonna have this same conversation? Like, for me, it would be way more beneficial to talk about maybe why some of these things are happening, and again, just offering that grace. And, you know, if you feel like, you know, a Gen Z person is struggling to communicate, then maybe help them with that. Now, I'm not saying if they're like a stranger, you don't have to like do that. But again, I think if we were to just lead in these conversations with more compassion, more grace, then maybe it'd be a little bit easier for Gen Z to communicate. Because I will say, again, it's not all. I, you know, would never sit here and say that it's all, but there's a good amount of people from older generations that have a tendency to approach these conversations in a way that just doesn't allow for someone to feel comfortable enough to talk and to speak. And I think that is also something to, you know, keep in mind. But I'm also aware that there are people within my generation that are just mean, rude, and who don't even bother, right? And I do think that there is a problem there, and I do think those people deserve to be checked. But to put it on the entire generation and to use it as an excuse to bash us, call us stupid and all this and that, like, that's just uncalled for. And I feel like when stuff like this happens, it's just an excuse to just bash Gen Z for things that, again, in my opinion, are not specific to Gen Z, but also are sometimes things that previous generations went through at our age, but for whatever reason they want to act like they never did, or they never had some of the issues and some of the struggles that, you know, we're having. Yes, obviously technology plays a role into things, and COVID plays a role into things, but it's very interesting too when people like to pick and choose when to utilize those factors, right? Because I will literally see millennials and baby boomers in one breath say like, oh, we went through all the same things that y'all are going through. This isn't nothing new. We went through taxes, and we went through the economy being bad. We went through all this, the same stuff that y'all went through. But then in another breath say, oh, well, you know, we didn't have these issues because, you know, we didn't have technology the way that y'all did, and we didn't have, you know, COVID. But then some of y'all will say that y'all did have a pandemic that y'all went through. So I don't know. I feel like folks be flip-flopping. But all in all, I think everyone should just leave each other alone. Stop fighting, stop fussing on the internet all the time. Like, we don't need to keep having these Gen Z versus millennial debates, okay? We all have our issues. We all have, our stuff. I don't think we need to make it into a generational battle, because the last thing you want to do is to literally stereotype a person just based off of their age on both ends, right? Like, that's why I think that a lot of what we're seeing in the job market is happening, because there's all of this rhetoric and all of these headlines about Gen Z being the laziest generation, and so it's causing us to not even get hired because people see, oh, this person graduated college in 2023, oh, this is a Gen Z person, I don't want to hire them because they're probably going to be lazy. Like, that's not a fair assumption to make, and I would hate for someone to look at me and have all these negative assumptions that have been floating around online. That's why I really think we need to stop doing that. We got too much going on right now in the world, and the last thing that we need is for these debates to be splitting us apart. If anything, we need to be coming together. So those are all of my thoughts on this whole Gen Z stare situation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you've seen this happen in real life, let me know your experiences in the comments down below. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys go ahead, give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget, if you guys want to check out Ana Luisa's By the Sea collection, it will be linked in my description, and I will see you guys in the next video.